Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Deva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapiyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Narshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sakurave Namaha. Our pranams to Shukdev Maharaj and all the great rishis that have kept the Bhagavatam knowledge alive. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishnutpatyata Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. Each canto is a summary of one theme. And so we saw qualifications that we need to imbibe this knowledge. We saw sadhanas that we can do, which gets elaborated on in every canto. We saw last canto, in canto number 3, that creation, and creation can take many, it's not so straightforward. Creation can be very varied in how it happens and also in how it exists. In terms of time, in terms of space, in terms of even how we understand life to be, right? Like, so even in how we can exist, it can be so varied. And part of that now gets explained in this canto. But probably more elaborately in other Puranas, of how this birth we are humans, and the blessings of that human birth is just incredible. Like, we take it so for granted that we're human, but to be able to be human is such a rare thing. When you think of all the possible creatures that we can be, even just here on earth, there's so many different creatures we can be, but we don't even know all other species. And like, in today's story, we're going to be seeing Daksha Prajaya, and all Shiva's attendants get cursed to be Bhutagana, and did all those people exist as well? Creatures. Where it's so hard to find devotion in the heart in some of these life forms. And in human birth, we can so easily feel love. Like, even if it's not love for God, we can so easily feel love. And then to turn that love, to be able to lift ourselves in human birth, that privilege is given to us. And then for this purpose, this next canto now is talking about sustaining. So creation, and then naturally what follows is sustaining. And we already saw that the goal of life is karma, artha. Yeah. And so each one is going to be elaborated on in this particular chapter, and each one is given a story to help us understand how it works, how each one definition will be given, explanation will be given, and then how to use it properly, underline, is explained, right? Because we use it, but not necessarily properly. And so the first one is Dharma. Even as when we say it, the first one that comes in the list is Dharma. I really don't understand why people go straight to the back. Like, the closer you are to Guru, the more beneficial it's supposed to be, and you all go straight to the back. Pagal hai you all are. Can you please all come forward? Dharma means doing righteous actions. In the most simplest way to explain Dharma, doing righteous actions. And so purpose of things and how we use it. So sometimes, you'll have some medical condition, or maybe you just a short period of time and some injury, and then we get given painkiller or something to deal with, maybe some allergy or something, and then it's there in the drawer. And then afterwards, that condition's gone. So purpose of it, done. But we keep it. And then especially if it's something like a painkiller, then we use it when we decide. We in pain, use it. And in this way, people get so addicted. Or, they went through some kind of trauma and then given some particular, use this for 1 week till you calm down. But they keep using it and they keep using it and keep using it. We aware that it's so, the purpose of it was short. And then we don't use it for the purpose that it was for, and then it leads to addiction, and then it leads to dependency, and then it has all sorts of side effects, and then that causes even ripple effect in our behavior, because once we're addicted, we act in a different way, and etc., and etc., and etc., and etc., right? So if we don't use something for the purpose that it's meant for, then negative consequences, and then we're creating problems that we have to solve. But if we just use it for what its purpose is, then we're not creating problems. And then also to use it for what it's intended to be used for. Like, we do this all the time. We use just anything around us that we use as paperweight. Which is okay, it's harmless to use, like scissors as paperweight, but that's not purpose of scissors. And or your glasses to hold back hair. But that's not purpose of glasses. Okay, these seem harmless. And maybe it is, in these two examples, fairly harmless. But sometimes when we use things as not what they were meant for, it can be very harmful. Yeah. So what was Dharma meant for? To take us closer to Bhagavan. Right? We already saw this. Everything we have is from Bhagavan. Even one little pinky finger is worth more than millions of dollars. And so when He's given us absolutely everything, then what we have, we use for Him. So purpose of Dharma, duties or righteous actions. Here it's not even duty. You were daughter, look after your parenthood. That's not even it. Here, Dharma is just righteous duties. And what are things like that? So doing, yes, duties is included in that. But it would be like when we do charity, when we do working together with other people for a better cause, yagna spirit, teamwork, when we do worship, pujas, havans, righteous actions to be able to benefit ourselves and benefit other people. So first thing here is when we do these righteous actions, why are we doing it? Sometimes to help others. Yeah. And then we forget that that's the purpose of it. And Gurudev used to give this example, and it's been alive for so many hundreds of years, so you might have heard it. And somebody had given a donation in the ashram, and then they wrote a letter asking, what did you use my donation for? And then the Gurudev replied, it wasn't Gurudev, but whoever ran the ashram replied, we used it to fix the flush in the toilet. Because if you're going to be so hung up on what did we use your money for, like that wasn't the purpose. Like you gave for it to be used, for it to better other people, not for you to say it was used for this purpose. And I know people will say we don't want it to be used irresponsibly and it should be used for the right things. You give. And then their karma, what they do with it. Of course, if we know it's going to the wrong place, then don't give them. But plenty places where if you're giving to an ashram and you already have Shraddha in that ashram, then just give. And so what was the purpose of it? To make my heart larger, right? To help somebody else. And then what do I get stuck in? Did they use it properly? What did they use it for? Can I announce to everyone that I helped in that they used it for this purpose? And I remember when I was in high school, university, that World Vision sponsor a child thing was so very popular, and everyone had a picture of the child that they sponsored. And then we did a project saying that how horrible those kids feel. Because picture had to be taken and they were forced to write a letter to the sponsors every day, and then they were constantly being reminded that you are being given money, and then defeats the purpose of. Like it's just feeding my ego that, look, I sponsored this child in Africa, look, he wrote me a letter, she wrote, look, this is her picture. And it's feeding my, I am such a good person. That wasn't the purpose of giving charity. It's not to make me feel like I am a good person. It's not to make me feel important. It's not the purpose. Purpose was to help the other person. So dharma, righteous actions. What is the purpose? And when we're doing it, are we fulfilling that purpose? So sometimes we don't quite understand why we're doing it. Somebody just tells us to do it, so we do it. Sometimes we do it because people forced us. Friend was giving donation for your cause, then they want to collect for their cause, so now you have to give, and then now you're thinking. So we give for so many different reasons. We do things for so many different reasons, and what is the purpose of it? Even if I don't want to give and I'm feeling pressured to give because now they asked, I asked them and they gave for me, so now I have to give to them. And now remember the purpose of it. And when doing it, do it in the right spirit. Right? Even if it wasn't intention, like even if the first thought is, and then it's not the right spirit. Here the idea is remind yourself of purpose and then follow purpose of that action. So one, to understand it, and sometimes we misunderstand it, and that's okay, because when we misunderstand things and our hearts are sincere, we will get guided to the right understanding. So that's also not the biggest problem, small problem, but not very big problem. Big problem is when we misuse it. So this is, I know the purpose it's supposed to serve, and then I go right ahead and use it for not that purpose. And so in this case, we are given the story of Daksha Prajaya. And you know, we teach the Bhagavatam in the Balvihar class. So my first encounter with Bhagavatam was before I even learnt it from Guruji and Swamiji, when I was thrown into teaching Balvihar and I had to tell some of these stories to the kids. And the kids knew the stories better than me at that point in time. Sometimes even now the kids know the stories better than me. And then I'm really impressed by those parents. So I was always curious as to why Shivji's story comes in the Bhagavatam when it's such a Vishnu Puranic-centric text. But it's not Shivji's story. It's the story of Daksha. So Daksha is one of the mind-born sons of Manu. And we'll be seeing lots of lineage in today's canto. And so every time Manu has a son, then what happens in their lineage and how that teaches us Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So Daksha, very, very proud. This whole canto is already, the minute pride, even this much pride comes, becomes very, very ugly. So you're going to hear this a lot, this whole canto. So Daksha, not little bit proud, very proud. And his daughter Sati is married to Lord Shiva. And one day they're in an assembly together and he walks in, and usually he's the father because mind-born son of Manu. So, I mean, Brahmaji, Manu? Brahmaji directly? No, Manu, yeah, Brahmaji directly. So you're not going to get more senior than him except if Brahmaji comes. So usually everyone has to stand up if somebody elder comes in there. And when he walks into the court, Lord Shiva's eyes are closed. So he doesn't see that Daksha has walked in. And so he doesn't stand up. And Daksha is thinking, my son-in-law? If anyone should stand up, it's son-in-law? Like, where's the respect here? So not only does he think it, he starts insulting Lord Shiva. You know, that you are uncultured and you think so highly of yourself and this is not the way to behave. And insulting Lord Shiva's behavior and then insulting his appearances and insulting his, just everything about Lord Shiva. And then this gets very interesting because Lord Shiva just is quiet, and when later on asked about it, he says, children say things. And so he doesn't feel in any way, but his Bhutagana, they get very angry, just like children will get more angry if we say something about parents. So Nandi curses Daksha and saying, you grahastas only think in one way. And then because he uses the word grahastas, then the whole assembly gets upset that why are you cursing grahastas? Like, you know, and we are good. It's a good path to be following. And so then they all the rishis there cursed Shiva's Bhutaganas to be what they are. Before they were all very beautiful. After this curse, they become all still beautiful only. Anyway, now there's this animosity between Daksha and Shiva, which is very well known. Before it was a little bit subtle, now it's very overt. Daksha deliberately has a yagna. What does yagna mean? To worship. He builds a huge offering to Brahmaji, to Vishnu, and he very deliberately leaves out Shiva. Whereas all yagnas were meant, you know, you keep a place for all three of them. Vishnuji doesn't come because Shivji is being insulted. Brahmaji also doesn't come because Shivji is being insulted. But you know, friends, all Daksha's friends, they all come. Because peer pressure, you turn up to each other's party. Otherwise, no one will turn up to your party. So, you know, you have to go. And then Sati sees all of them going and she says, I want to go too. And Shivji says, it's not a good idea. But she says, no, it's my father's house. Of course I should go. We don't need invitation. I'm cutting it a bit short. And then Shivji says, I've already told you it's not a good idea. Now you do what you want to do. Now Sati is daughter of Daksha. And so she has a lot of him in her. And the bits of him and we all do. We all inherit things from our parents. She had inherited his stubbornness. Probably not the best thing to inherit. She had many beautiful qualities also, but the stubbornness when she didn't want to listen to him. And after marrying Lord Shiva, she also got a lot of good qualities living with him, because satsang also bears fruit. But this stubbornness made her go. And then when she goes, Daksha doesn't even look at her. And then her mom and her sisters are scared. And so they talk to her only when Daksha's not looking. And then she starts feeling that something's not quite right. And then when she goes out to the Yagnashala and she sees that Shiva hasn't been given a place and is very deliberately being insulted, and now she understands why her father is not looking at her, she gets so upset, first with herself, because she should have listened to Shiva and not come. And then she gets so upset that, why is my father like this? And we all have these thoughts every now and then. Why? Why are they like this? When we can see very clearly something wrong in someone else, and then we still love them, but then we get so angry that they like this. And they, exactly the same with us. Because we also will have things that make them think, why are you like this? Like, it's so simple not to be like this. Just, Shivji obviously is worthy of respect. Just respect him, and why you have to be so proud? And in that clarity of that, I don't want to have any trace of this kind of stubbornness or this kind of conceit or this kind of disrespect. And she says, I want nothing to do with you. And so she uses her yogic power and she burns herself. And Nandi, who was angry that they had insulted Shivji long back, was just waiting for a reason. And now when Sati burns herself, he runs havoc in that Yagnashala. Everything gets broken, everything is... It stopped working? Y'all can hear? And Narad Muni comes, he tells Shivji that, Sati has burnt herself, she has been insulted. And Sati, when her father insulted her, didn't mind it. But when she realized that it was Shivji that was insulted, that's when she got angry. And we see the same for Shivji. When he was insulted, he didn't mind it. But when Sati is insulted, then he plucks. This is the coolest part of the story. He plucks one strand of hair. One hair. Can you imagine? Just one strand of hair. And then why does it have to be done? Actually, it could have just turned into Bhadrakali like that. But no. Throw it on the wall. Then it turns into Veerabhadra, who is this ferocious creature that goes to the Yagnashala, just literally plucks heads off people. Very super violent story. This would be greatly graphically animated as a cartoon. Even Daksha's head is plucked, severed from his body and thrown into the Havan. And now the yagna is totally ruined. Like there's blood and it's body, limbs everywhere. And like yagnas are supposed to be worship. It's supposed to be pure. It's supposed to be invoking divinity and reverence. And now this yagnashala has become one battlefield and bloodbath and everything inauspicious. And so finally Brahmaji comes, and all the rishis who have survived this go running to him and says, please help. And he says, but I'm not the one you're offended. This happens often. We run to one person asking for forgiveness, but that's not the one we offended. And so Brahmaji guides them all back to Lord Shiva. He's the one you've offended. And when they come, again he says, this is children's playing. There was never any anger, but when devotees are hurt, Bhagwan will do something. And here it was Sati that was hurt. And so everything is cleaned up. Even Daksha gets given a different head of a goat. And it's in the Bhagavatam itself, so every single narrator of the story will tell you he was given a goat's head because he kept saying, meh, me, me, me. And so for someone who is only so busy thinking about me, then no need for human life. Remember I was saying how glorious human life is? Human life is not glorious if we're going to just think about ourselves all the time. Human life is we only considered worthy of human life when we drop this constant thinking of ourselves. And Sati is born again as Uma, and that's a beautiful story. But here, the story ties up with Lord Shiva forgiving Daksha, Daksha realizing and asking for forgiveness from Lord Shiva, and the idea being that he was using yajna to insult. Purpose of yajna is to uplift myself, but was using yajna to deliberately insult Shivji. So remember I said we don't understand or we misunderstand. Those are also problems, but those can be easily fixed if we are sincere. Right? If I don't understand something, something will happen and it will be made clear to me. If I've misunderstood through mistake, trial and error, I might learn myself, or again, Guru from in whatever form, God in whatever form comes and explains, no, not like that, like this. But when I know and I'm using it for a different purpose, then it's not even like when you bite your own tongue that you hurt yourself. When we bite ourselves, we're hurting ourselves only, right? This is much worse. We're hurting ourselves like something so precious we given, one, human birth, and two, this means to be able to worship and uplift ourselves, and then we're using it for insulting someone or showing off or bettermanship or accumulating power and or fame and many times we see this. We see dharmic actions like charity, like worship, being used for not our own upliftment. Yeah. And so here Bhagavatam is reiterating to use it for the purpose that it was created. And the purpose it was created for is to uplift yourself and to use it as a way to worship others. Remember yesterday when we saw puja is one, first and foremost done to the idol, second to fellow people. And so any kind of puja, any kind of charity, any kind of worship, to be able to help whoever it is that we can in the process. Even help doesn't mean they poor, I am helping them. It just, even when we all sing together, then the mood or the vibration in the room is so much more conducive to me being able to pay attention and feel devotion, right? And so we participate in collectively singing to create that atmosphere, to help each other. And otherwise sometimes, and I have been in these satsangs where it's like, Shri Krishna Sharanam, Shri Krishna. And it's not conducive. We're not helping each other feel Bhagwan's presence, whereas when we wholeheartedly, so helping doesn't mean it's anything that we can do to uplift collectively the environment and our own thoughts, right? And then everybody else's mood and inclination towards goodness. And so Daksha is representative of how to do Dharma. And when we do it, when we do the way he did, it's going to lead to destruction. And so Dharma is actually meant to uplift us, but when we misuse it, it will lead to destruction. And so that's why that Yagnashala is described so graphically. Like, do we really need to know that his head was ripped out of his body? And I haven't even gone into the extent of how the teeth were bashed in and somebody's ear was pulled out, and so much detail of how violent it is. And then you guys sit there judging these scriptures are so violent. Why our scriptures have to be so violent? Why are you all so judgmental? It's so violent because that's the level to which we fall. It's so easy to say why they violent, but when we see it in the world all around us, when we see it in our own thoughts that we can be so petty, we can be so violent, we can have stooped to that level, maybe not physically, outwardly, because if we even tried to punch someone, they'd punch us way harder than we could because we have no idea how to. But we, in our thinking or in our speech or in our intention, there's plenty violence. And so it's described to show us we degenerate to this point when we misuse it. That's why the violence is there, because it can exist to that extent. And so use Dharma to uplift. And Daksha's story ends on a wonderful note with everyone forgiving each other. And the yajna is considered complete because by the end of it, Shivji's appeared, Brahmaji's appeared, and Bhagavan Vishnu also comes. Because now that Shivji is there, Vishnuji is happy to come along. And so when ego is destroyed, the ways Daksha's was, then only is the worship complete. Until our ego is not destroyed, the worship's not complete. We still have to offer. So Dharma is the first one. The second one is artha, which is such a beautiful story. As violent as this first story is, the second story is as, oh. It's about a little boy called Dhruva, who's only 5 years old. I know lots of y'all are nodding. Everybody already knows Dhruva. So another mind-born son of Brahmaji was Manu, and Manu had a few sons, and we're going to see all their lineages. And the first lineage is this one of Uttanapada. And he's married to Surichi and Suniti. And they represent Shreyas and Prayas. So Suniti means good conduct. And so it's doing the right thing. And initially it might be a little bit uncomfortable or unpleasant, but then it bears very good results. And Surichi represents Prayas, which means initially it's very pleasurable, but then negative side effects. And the pleasure is very short-lived. And sometimes they may not be lasting negative effects, but often it is. Like say maybe in a moment it's very satisfying to be able to insult this person. And they said something and fadak, I said something back and it was so witty. And then I'm so, pleased with myself for being able to say it. And then they've held it against me for their whole life. So sometimes the consequences can be really, really long. So Shreyas is long-term good. Prayas is long-term pain or negativity, whichever way you want to see it. And so unfortunately, our mind tends to lean towards prayers. And so Surichi was the favored wife, and we should never have favorites, but unfortunately so many of us do. I've seen parents also will have a favorite kid. How? But they do, and sometimes they'll advertise it also. And kids will also advertise which parent is favorite. Balviharyam, very strict, no favorites, but many teachers will, and they'll know, straight away. In the class, the kids will know straight away. But here it was one of those very well advertised favorites. Surichi was the favored queen. And so her son used to get lots of attention, and Dhruva, who was Suniti's son, didn't get much attention. And one day he walked into his father's palace and he saw his brother sitting on his father's lap. And as any kid want to, he would also want to sit on his father's lap. And so he tries to climb on. And his father looks at Surichi and thinks, oh no, she's going to get really upset if I put him on my lap too. So he kind of looks away like this, pretending nothing is happening. And then Surichi takes that as license to be able to say whatever she wants to, and then she says, Dhruva, you are most unfortunate. Your father will not put you on his lap because you are not my son. If you want to be able to sit on your father's lap, then you should go and pray to Bhagwan that next life you are born from me. Now, firstly, she has insulted Bhagwan because this is not something to pray for. And then she's insulted what prayer is for. But she is oblivious to all of this. She is only thinking, great, I have told him. And Dhruva, of course, 5 years old, is devastated. 1, that the father has ignored him. 2, that his mother has been insulted. 3, that someone's yelling at him. Right? He's just 5 years old. And so, weeping, he runs. And he's such a sweet boy, He doesn't tell his mom. Because telling his mom would mean she'd have to hear her own insult. And so he's crying in the bed, and when she comes and says, what happened? He says, nothing. But of course in the palace there's lots of servants, and servants love to go and tell each other what happened, and so she already knows what happens, and then she says, and this is why she is Suniti. Dhruva, just because she's your stepmother doesn't mean everything she said is wrong. So now he knows that she already knows what happened. And she sits up and he listens. And she said, first she said that you can't get what you want, which is true. You want your father's favor and you're not getting it. This is the truth. And second, she said, to get what you want, you should pray. This is also true. Only Bhagwan can truly give us everything we want, and so no need to ask anyone else. Ask Bhagwan only. But what she asked you to pray for, you don't need to. In fact, it's best to pray for that which nobody can take away from you. So, Dhruva, having heard this now from his own mother, and see, power of words, Surichi also said, but of course she added with so much malice and so much hatred. And when somebody who we know loves us and has our welfare in heart, and when they're speaking and we respect them, and so much more open-minded, even though she is repeating stuff that the stepmother said. Of course, amended. Very important amendment. Ask for that which no one can take from you. Not just to sit on a lap for a little bit of time. Not that just one person likes you. That's not going to last. Ask for something that can't be taken away from you. And so determined. This is where we see Dhruva is a true Kshatriya. He leaves then and there into the forest. And with mother's blessing, he's left and he's gone into the forest to go and pray to Bhagwan for that which no one can take from him. And as he is leaving the forest, it is written so beautifully in the Bhagavatam that Bhagwan in Vaikuntha is noticing that this little boy has left his house. Somebody needs to look after him. And so immediately Naraji is on speed dial. Narad, go help! He's left his house. And Naraji, also being a Deva Rishi, also knew that Dhruva has left his house, and Naraji is thinking, this is going to be my best student. Because Naraji loved converting people to sannyas. Dhruva doesn't get sannyas though. So he's walked into the forest not that far, but a fair bit, and Narad Muniji comes and says, Dhruva, where are you going? And I'm going into the forest to do tapas. No, you're too small. 5-year-old boys are not meant to do tapas. You go right back home to your mama. When you get older, then you can come and do tapas. And he said, but why? I want to do tapas now because I want to get Bhagwan's darshan now because I have to ask him for something now. So no need for me to grow older. I already know what I want to do and I'm a Kshatriya, and once I set my mind to something, I will do it. He really did have a strong mind. And then Naraji tries different in way to says, no. Forest is very scary, there's lots of animals and you'll have to sleep on the floor and there'll be no food, and then who'll look after you? And look at how smart Dhruva is. He says, looks like I'm already being looked after. Because I just left the palace and you're already here. This can't be that hard, you're already here. If you are here, Bhagwan has already noticed my heart. At 5, he knew this. If a Santa has appeared in front of me, Bhagwan only has sent. Which means, and so he is Shraddha. Already he had so much Shraddha when his mother said, go ask for Bhagwan, Bhagwan will give you. Already he had Shraddha. Now, Bhagwan's already sent. He's barely left the forest and Bhagwan's already sent Guru to him. Now his Shraddha is full and complete. And he says, just tell me what to do. Right? You are Guru, you've come. Your job is to tell me what to do because I don't know what to do. And so Naraji instructs him and gives him this mantra that we were chanting. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you chant this mantra continuously with single pointed attention, and he gives lots of instruction. Everyone please move a bit forward and please move a bit this way. He gives a whole lot of instructions, bathing every morning and how to first stand on one leg and balance your weight this way, breathe in this way, breathe out that way, chant the mantra this way. And Dhruva follows absolutely perfectly. In fact, Dhruva's tapasyacharya is amazing. He gets to the point where he's able to hold his breath. He breathes in today, he'll hold his breath, and he breathes out tomorrow. And then he gets to a point where he breathes in today, and he holds his breath, and he breathes out next week. And you're thinking that's not humanly possible. Yes, it is. It's just that we can't do it. But if you build up and have that kind of tapasyacharya, and at 5, he's doing it at 5. And so his tapas is probably one of the shortest, but so incredibly potent because his mind was so incredibly determined. And this is so emphasized in the Bhagavatam about how long does things take? Well, it really just depends on you. Right? Sometimes people have to meditate lifetimes. And in Dhruva's case, he gets darshan in 6 months. There's another story of a Katyanga Raja, and it comes in the first canto, and the devatas in the heaven ask him to come and help them fight their war in the heavens. And so he goes up, he's given the boon to be able to go to heaven, and he's helping the devatas fight. And when the battle is over and the devatas win, the devata said, ask us for a boon. And he says, what boon you'll give me? I needed to help you fight. And then they think, that's true. He said, only one thing I do really want to know, when will I die? And then they thought, oh, actually, in an hour. And he says, 1 hour? Very good. He goes back to earth, and Parikshit had a whole week. He had 1 hour. Handed over kingdom in 1 minute. Son, kingdom. Sits, meditates, and within an hour gets moksha. Why? So clear. I have only an hour. And so it was done. Moksha was done within that hour. When our minds are set, our minds are so incredibly potent. If I think, no, I can do next life, maybe life after that, then we'll take that long. If we think I have an hour, and we all know this, we can get so much done in an hour when we decided. Or we can get nothing done in the whole day. So, Dhruva, that potency of his mind, and Lakshmi ji in heaven almost every week is telling Bhagavan Vishnu, go, he's doing so much tapas. He's like, wait, but he's already holding his breath for a whole week, go, wait. This conversation happens on repeat every week in heaven. Because he's so small, then of course everyone's heart is softer for him. His mind becomes so in tune with the totality that when he holds his breath, the wind stops moving. At that point, Bhagavan had to come. And because he was standing on one leg, the earth tilted with the weight of his tapas. And you're saying 5-year-old, how can heavy he can be? Tapas can be very potent. And so when that happened, Bhagavan had to come. Because now the natural order of things was being affected by his tapas. And when Bhagavan comes and sees this cute little boy standing, even Bhagavan didn't want to disturb his tapas. He wanted to just sit and watch Dhruva do the tapas. And then when he's there, but Dhruva's not opening his eyes, then Dhruva doesn't want to open because he doesn't want to get tripped and break his tapas. Then Bhagavan takes the conch and holds it to his cheek. Now the conch we worship as Bhagavan's instrument. Bhagavan used it to blow, right? We blow it before arti because Bhagavan blows the conch as a call to all of us to come to him. But that call, the sound of the conch, is all the Vedas. It's the sound of Om, which is the summary of all knowledge. And so when this conch touches Dhruva, Dhruva gets all knowledge. And when you hear what he says, it's like the mantras of Ishavasya Upanishad. He says, first salutations to this cosmic form of Bhagwan, and my speech which had disappeared has come back to me because you are the speech of my speech. You are the ear of my ear, which is exactly Ishavasya Upanishads for those of you who have studied it. And then he says, to have darshan of you who can grant moksha, it is foolish to ask anything else. And I left my home wanting something, but I was foolish. Because life is wasted if we ask for something that, like sense pleasures. And all of this Dhruva is saying, Bhagwan is not saying. Dhruva is saying. Just the whole section of what Dhruva says in itself is a stuti that can help us reflect, and so incredibly profound. And so he ends with, how can I ask you for anything other than yourself? And why is he saying all of this? Because the conch has just touched his cheek and he has gained all that knowledge of all the Vedas. And his mind was so receptive because he's been doing tapas so intensely for 6 months that in that still potent, powerful mind, when the knowledge is given, it comes alive. And Bhagavan says, but that's not the sankalpa you took when you started your tapas. And he says, I don't want that anymore. What did he want? Power. Right? The power to be able to not be pushed aside. The mother pushed him aside. His father pushed him aside. And so the sankalpa he left the house with, which is a very natural thing that we would want. Now, if somebody just, and we think we are also important, and maybe I don't want to be more important than everyone else, but I definitely wanted to be given due respect. But Dhruva at 5, of course, never mind due respect. I want to be more important than everyone else. And that's actually what we want. We want to be more important. We want to be able that nobody take power away from us, nobody be able to insult us, nobody be able to defeat us. And that's what the sankalpa that Dhruva took. And so that's why his story is artha. Artha is money, but it's also power. And we've already mentioned, Bhagavatam's made it super clear, purpose of artha is to do Dharma. But we forget that the purpose of artha is to do Dharma, and we think the purpose of artha is for me to be important, or sometimes not important, just secure. Right? If I have everything, then nobody can mess with me and I can solve all my problems. And we see that Dhruva gets the initial desire. Even though now he's saying, no, I don't want it. I want you, Bhagwan, and I want devotion. This is important to remember. If we wanted it and we asked for it, we'll get it. And sometimes we've outgrown it. But because we insisted on it, at some point, we'll be given it. And then it's a burden. Because we've outgrown it and we can see it was useless. And so, as a child also, we can see that we wanted this and we wanted this, and now when we think back on what we insisted we wanted, even as adults, we can see when we were younger how silly that was, that we insisted we wanted that. And so sometimes we'll like, why is this happening to me? 'Cause you wanted it. Not now. You didn't specify. And things work in, a rhythm, and it will come when that karma is ready to fructify. And that's why again and again and again and again in Bhakti Shastra they urge us, don't ask. We will ask. I'm not going to tell you don't ask, because you will ask. I want this. But Bhakti Shastra tells us, don't ask. Why don't ask? One, He already knows what we want. We don't have to tell Him. Two, He knows what's good for us, and it might not be what we want. And so Bhakti Shastra will say, don't ask. Because Dhruva's example is given again and again and again. Dhruva asks for power, and he gets it. So this 6 months of tapas, he gets darshan of Bhagwan. Like how many of us can say that? He gets darshan of Bhagwan. And then he gets to be king of earth, not one small country. Of the entire earth. Like he asked for a position no one can take from him, he got it. And he ruled for 36,000 years. Yes, because he did tapas and it's a boon. And so if he wants to live that long, he can live that long. At the end, tail end of his life, I think 35,000 and a half years are over, his brother goes into the forest. Oh, so he has to go back to the city and he has to rule now, because he wanted to be king. So now he has to go back and he has to rule. He gets married, he has children. His brother, who was sitting on his father's lap, they get along great, which is very nice. There's no sibling rivalry. His brother is very, very, very happy when he comes back home. They rule together the kingdom beautifully. He goes into the forest. Who? The brother, whose name? Uttama. Uttama is the name. He goes into the forest and he's killed by some yakshas. And so news comes back to the palace, to Dhruva, that your brother's been killed. Dhruva gets so angry. How dare somebody kill my brother? There was so much love for the brother, but also, I'm so powerful. How dare somebody kill my brother? And so he goes into the forest and he kills so many yakshas. And then the yakshas wage a war on him and he takes it. And then one big battle happens until Brahmaji comes down. Brahmaji? Manu, his grandfather, comes down and says, Dhruva, what are you doing? Why are you killing when you've had darshan of Bhagwan? And this bit of the story doesn't get told as often. We just get told the beauty of Dhruva. But even after getting darshan of Bhagwan, even after asking for nothing but devotion, ruling for 36,000 years, we get lost in that momentum of power. This is why when Bhagwan appeared in front of him, he said, I don't want it anymore. Because when we ask for power and we get power, power has side effects. One of the side effects is fall. Maybe we don't fall in the amount of power we have, but we fall in we get angry, we get irritable, we get careless. But when Swayambhu Manu tells Dhruva, his grandson, stop. That presence of mind, that somebody wiser is giving me advice, I should listen. Many don't have that also, but at least Dhruva had this much. And he said, you're right, what am I doing? Why am I killing? And he immediately stops. And so then Kabir says to him, many people wouldn't have listened, you did listen and you have stopped. And because you have this respect and regard for your elders, I give you a boon. And immediately Dhruva remembers. If asked for, what do you want? Ask only for devotion. And so his time is up, his 36,000 years is over, and a chariot comes to take him, and he doesn't go to heaven. a whole world is created just for Dhruva. Because he wanted, the boon he asked for was, where it cannot be taken away from me. So his own personal heaven got created just for Dhruva. And he lives there. And it's known as the star that shines in the sky. And he's still believed to be there in that square, shining at us. And every time we see that star shine in the sky, we're supposed to remember what? He got everything he asked for and he regrets asking for it. When Naraji Muni visits him till today, he is crying. Why did I ask for this? I should have asked for Bhagwan. Because what's the point of having a whole heaven to myself for all of time? Like, in our pain or anger or in our confusion, we don't see it through. Our understanding will be less. And so, artha, power, isn't the goal. We can have it and use it for Dharma to get to moksha, but it's not the goal. And too often we think of it as the goal. Even in Bhaja Govindam, that second verse of Bhaja Govindam is telling us that we think it's the goal, but it helps us, it's very useful, no doubt, but it's not the goal. And then there's this story, so Dharma, how it can be misunderstood, and then we hurt ourselves, even though it's supposed to be helpful. Artha, again, supposed to be helpful, but it can be such an obstacle in our path if we get attached to it. And then there's two very sweet stories. One of King Prithu. So from Dhruva's lineage, his son, and then his son, and then his son, and I think it's like 6 generations later, there's King Angada, who is very nice. Then his son, Vena, who is horrible. And then he was so horrible that when all the Rishi Munis saw how horrible he was, they thought, no, enough of him. And this was very cool. They just said, hum. And he fell down dead. Tempting to see, no, if it works. Bad use of scriptures. But the rishis could kill someone with one word, hum. In the word's given also, but what tapas we've done. Nothing will happen if we use the word. We'll turn it into a song, Bollywood piece. And then even though he was so wicked, from him was churned an avatar of Bhagwan, King Prithu. And not as well known, King Prithu is not as well known an avatar. Some will say they small avatars like Kapil Muni, and then some will get very angry. How can avatars be big or small? Bhagwan is Bhagwan. And King Prithu is phenomenally well known for the one who helped start town planning, public education. Lots of systems that we experiencing today actually started with King Prithu, which we wouldn't know, but Bhagavatam has a lot of history in it. And so even how that came about is written, and people study it just for those purposes. In fact, in our Vishwa Vidyapith, our university, we take these for people studying engineering, people studying architecture. A lot of these verses are still very, very relevant of how to plan. But King Prithu, phenomenal king, avatar, so of course he was a phenomenal king. And then one of the dharmas of the king, he taught, this was exceptional, he taught the whole praja, the whole city, he taught them what's the dharma of a king. Not that they were kings, but so that they would make sure he did it. What a nice way to make sure you're following Dharma. So you all as parents should teach parent Dharma to your kids. And they will make sure you do it. We have a king later on that's doing that. And he did so one of the things that they used to do is Ashwamedha Yagna, and he wanted to do 100. And if you do 100 Ashwamedha Yagnas, you get Indra's position in heaven. So he did 99, and this 101 was going on. And Indra got very scared. He's going to get my position. But actually, King Prithu is an avatar, so why does he need Indra's position? He doesn't need Indra's position. But he wanted to do, how we are also round number, that many stickers, then you want to round it up. So, it was 99 wasn't round number, so he's trying to finish this 101, and then Indra comes and steals the horse. Then they find Indra, and then they scare him, and he runs away, and then they get the horse back. Then from the heaven, Indra is sending rain, and he's sending thunder, and he's sending hail. And then King Prithu gets so annoyed and takes his bow and arrow, and he is about to shoot at Indra, and then Brahmaji comes and says, "But why? Do you want Indra's position?" And he thinks, "No." Then why? And literal words, why are you making this a prestige issue? And the minute Brahmaji says it, King Prithu thinks, yeah, no need. And at the same time, Bhagavan Vishnu takes Indra and drags him by his ear and pulls him and brings him down and apologize. You can imagine one parent holding one kid's ear, one parent, say sorry to each other. And so King Prithu is saying, no, you can have heaven, and Indra is saying, no, you can have it. It's a very nice, favorable outcome. And this story is for karma. Usually we think of karma as pleasure. Milkshakes and gulab jamuns and massage and aromatherapy. We think karma is that? Yes. But more is our insistence on things being a certain way. Okay? I wanted garden around Krishna, blue background, pink flowers. I already told you all, I planned this 3 weeks ago. Now let's say some sevika came and bought orange flowers, and I'm like, what have you done? What's wrong with orange flowers? Yeah. They never got a chance because I only went and got the flowers. Insistence on. And then if somebody came and put one nice offering, and then I'll say, oh, it doesn't work. This is karma. Karma isn't just eating and all those not just sense pleasures. Right? Karma is insistence on getting my way, which is far more dangerous than eating gulab jamun. You sit in your corner and eat your gulab jamun. Nobody is hurt, except you maybe. Maybe. Sometimes not even you are hurt by it. Eat. But I want it this way and only this way, and you cannot have it your way. Then that affects so many other people. And it will be a design or a like or a preference. It's not even a right and wrong. It's not dharma, adharma. Like, what's dharma, adharma got to do with whether the flowers are pink or the orange or the... It doesn't matter, right? But no, I decided, so it should be this way only. And then that insistence is called our will. We don't use this word so often in English, right? The only time we really use it is, His will be done, which is a quote from the Bible. But the word will is the force with which we think something, that we make it come true. Right? So it has to be this way is my will. And now you know exactly why it's an obstacle. Because the more I assert my will and I insist on things, I can't even hear what he's saying. I don't even remember he's saying something. And then karma becomes, makes me blind, deaf to his will. And his beauty. You know, sometimes somebody will say something to us and it's actually so much better than what we're doing, but no. It's like grace is coming. He's whispering to us, and when we get insistent on something, we just shut it out. So Dharma, Daksha Prajaya story. Artha, Dhruva story. Kama is King Prithu. And his willingness to just let it go. He didn't need to do 100 Ashwamedhas yajna. And again, Bhagavan Vishnu came. Remember holding Indra's ear coming? No, if Bhagavan Vishnu came, then yajna is complete. So technically speaking, his yajna is complete because Bhagavan came. And what's the purpose of doing yajna? For Bhagavan. Not to get any recognition or power or full the number criteria for something. It's to uplift ourselves, which King Prithu does beautifully. And then the last story is a little bit complicated, and I'm going to have to read all the names. Because it's on moksha, so of course moksha is complicated. No, it's not. Super easy. And the story is fairly short, so we'll go through it fairly quickly. The names are a little bit of tongue twisters. What's really nice is Guruji has elaborated this extensively, that, you know, we think these stories are made up, Dhruva ruling for 6,000 years, 36,000 years, and Gokarna having cow ears. But actually, before this story starts, the one I'm about to tell you, who's talking at the moment? Vidur is talking to Rishi Maitri at the moment, and he says this is a made-up story. So if he says this is a made-up story, it's very clear when it's a made-up story, they're saying so, which means every other story, real. So, and it's a symbolic story, and the Bhagavatam itself gives the symbolism. So it's not like some rishi is giving it. So there's a king called King Parichinbari, and he has 10 sons, Parachitas. And the Parachitas got along so beautifully and fabulously with each other, and they loved each other so dearly that they didn't even want separate names. And so they were Parachita 1, Parachita 2, Parachita. And they all go off to Mansaroj, and they learn from Bhagwan Shivji themselves, and they get devotion, and they are set, sorted, life fulfilled. Met Bhagwan Shiva, got satsang, got darshan, all good. But their father, Parichinbari, he was stuck in ritualism, and Narad Muniji felt a great sense of compassion that he's stuck and he's not making any progress. And look, the sons have made progress and he hasn't made progress. So Narad Muniji goes and tells him, do you know what can remove all sorrow? And he says, no, I don't. And then he himself thinks, I should know that. Because I keep worshipping, but I keep being sorrowful. So what is it that removes all sorrow? And then Narajari tells this story. It's a story of a king called Puranjana, who sets off on a journey with a friend called Avijata. These are all names that have very significant meanings. And as they set off on a journey, they come to a 9-gated city, And inside this 9-gated city, there's this very beautiful princess, and she's guarded by 5 snakes. And he thinks, oh, wow, who are you? Who's your parents? And where do you come from? And of course, he's thinking, because he needs to do background check and all of that. And her reply is, I kid you not. This is her reply. What does it matter? Let's get married. And so they do. They get married. And then he's so besotted with her, that if she sings, he sings. If she walks, he walks. If she sits, he sits. If she eats, he eats. If she dances, he dances. And if she's sad, then he goes crazy. Like, why are you sad? And living like this for a very, very long time, one day, cha. I forgot his name and I didn't write it down. This other person comes, wages a war, and burns the kingdom down. And he dies, Puranjana dies, and the wife also dies. And as the city is burning, he's thinking, where is she? Is she okay? And his last thought before he dies is about her. So he's born again as a woman because his last thought was about her. And then as a woman, she falls in love. Again, not necessarily with the same person. I know you all think it's for 7 lifetimes, but there's no such thing. It's not written anywhere. So she falls in love, and now she marries a king called Maladhwija. And he was very devout and into his puja, and he got married, but he wasn't into the marriage, and so he sat and he meditated, and then he got samadhi and he left his body. And she thought he's still meditating, and she didn't realize, but when she realizes the king who's now born again as a woman, that he's left his body, she starts crying and howling and weeping and thinks, oh no, I've lost you. And at that point, the friend comes, Avijata. But Avijata was a friend in the previous life. What he's doing here? Listen. He comes and he consoles her. Why are you crying? Don't you remember me? You are neither a man nor a woman. In fact, you are not even this body. And so what are you crying for? And how many times are you going to do this? A man falls in love with women, then besotted thinking about the woman his whole life, and then dies, and then becomes woman to be besotted with a man, and then thinks about the man the whole life, and then dies, and to become a woman, and then be besotted with the man, and then think about them, and then die, and then everything. Like, how long are you going to do this for? Just go from one body to another body and just get infatuated and get sad that if they leave you, or if you the one leave first, then you go into the next body and again and this is just going to keep going on. And so the whole thing is explained that Puranjana is us, and we get to the 9-gated city, our body. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And anus and reproductive organs. There's 9 gates through which this body interacts with the world outside. And this beautiful lady inside is our own mind. And so when the mind cries, we cry. And when the mind dances, we dance, because we are slaves to our own mind, just doing whatever the mind tells us to do until we die with this attachment. And whatever we attached with, we born again with that same attachment. And then it just continues. And then our friend is that Supreme Self, Avijata, saying, what are you doing? Or rather, Avijata is looking at us and saying, are you done yet? Like, really? How long are you going to do this for? Time to go already. Moksha. Moksha is when you've understood. You've done this already. So many times. Do you know what will end your sorrow? No? When you stop believing you are this. If you believe you are this, you will get old, you will get sick, you will die. Repeat. So, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The purpose of Dharma, to take us to moksha. Purpose of Artha, to take us to moksha. Purpose of Kama, to take us to moksha. Purpose of life, moksha. Yeah. And with this, Canto 4 ends. We'll have a short break. The Bhagavatam is so incredibly beautiful. If we could keep the break as short as possible. I know you'll need to stretch. I know you'll need to go to Bhagavatam, but it's bathroom. But if we could stay in the mood of the Bhagavatam and keep singing and keep our minds as sattvic as possible. There are refreshments. If people want to eat, please eat inside. Don't bring the food outside. And we can sing bhajans for those of you who don't need a break. Start.
Narayana Narayana Namo Narayana.